We are here in this group to spend a day together, and also because what we do here touches a lot of folks. It touches people in ways that we don't see immediately. The story of what it means to show up and to take a backward step and to pay attention to how it is to be us today and how it is to meet others. Just notice the fact that this person here is somebody who has chosen to be here right now. And I'd ask you to acknowledge that they have been born into the same environment of crisis, of challenge, fear, and of opportunity, alive at this time on the planet, and yet they chose to show up here. That you somehow have managed to show up at the same time, against all odds, in the same place. And just the fact that you're sharing this time here is kind of miraculous.
Even as a young man, I think I knew I was going to be a police officer. My dad was an officer. Several of my uncles and cousins. At one point, I had 13 or 14 different family members on the same police department in Massachusetts. People call the police when they've lost control. So now you're the person that has to fix everyone's lost controlled situations, if you will. Let's be frank, I think this uniform represents oppression to some people in this community. If they're going to say something perhaps negative towards the police, or something that other people around them might hear and believe, I will say what I believe and explain it.
Standing there in front of him was very uncomfortable. I noticed that he was tense, and because I was tense, he just had an officer stance, where and he started reaching for his shirt. He almost would put his hand on his sidearm had there been one. So I'm like, man, this dude is really uncomfortable.
Taking someone's freedom away. It's a very real, serious thing to put someone in handcuffs and take them to jail. It's a huge responsibility.
It is a self-help group in prison. We're on a level 4, 180 yards, like high security, maximum security. We were conditioned to keep everything in. You don't talk about your feelings. If you talk about your feelings, you're weak. You can't show weakness. Most of us are gang members and criminals and living that life, and you don't do that. You don't talk about love and companionship and relationships and stuff like that, or sadness, or you can't go up to somebody like, hey, I'm feeling sad today. So you have to maintain that demeanor, that facade.
I think I'm sort of always bracing myself. What will be understood about me here? What won't be? And I was running youth programs for queer and trans youth, what we call the cops or the law enforcement or the police. I think that the institution itself came into being in a way that was inherently racist.
The world judges you by your look, how you show up, and then sometimes they get past what you look like and they see who you are behind that, and they get to know your heart and your spirit. And so being in law enforcement and being in a uniform and judged every day.
In this community, it can represent oppression. It can represent something very negative. But I've been proud to wear this uniform for the past 30 years.
I thought I would be preparing my defense mechanisms and my activist stance.
My guard is up, knowing how the barrier is palpable, and the old mechanisms of judgment and defense are with me.
I came to this because I really wanted to have what I always hear on the news and on TV as that honest dialogue. that we really never end up having because nobody really wants to have it because it's so uncomfortable. So I will promise all of you to do my best today to be honest with everyone, even if it hurts.
What's coming up for me immediately with all of you that are here is just a gratitude. I'm also entering today accepting the discomfort and the frustration as part of the value of growth.
What's alive in me right now is, I believe, the willingness to be open, to listen, to have an honest conversation. That's why I'm here as well.
Honestly, just seeing you guys take your shoes off, I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna be with cops and they're not gonna be in cop clothes and your shoes are off.
I am really interested in who you all are, and I'm really interested in what you think, and in context to the greater world, but in context to my world, and a few of my friends here that all share the same profession of cops who will take their shoes off.
Most of my preconceived notions, my judgments, my non-stop editorializing, it's all wrong.
Just the fact that you're here is enormous. It is really more the who than it is the what. The practice of counsel asks us to really just do these 4 things. When we're listening, really attempt to listen without doing too much judging. Listening with our heart rather than listening with our head. In counsel, it might just be a different kind of listening that you cultivate. And similarly, when you're speaking in counsel, maybe just look at it like an opportunity to say what's real and alive. It may be the emergence of the next version of you coming through you. Centerpiece comes from Bosnia, a couple of imams, Mevludin and Vahidin. Some of you may have brought some things that you eventually want to see land in that center because it holds a lot of objects and the objects hold stories.
This is a dedication to the folks that have come before us.
I also want to light a candle for a man named Eze, who is inside.
It's easy to criticize what others are doing, but it's the man in the arena that's doing anything. So just think of the power of being in the struggle.
We all represent a story, our own story, the story of the neighborhoods and the families and the places that we come from. So this dedication is to the big story.
Dedicate this to all of us here. I never ever thought I would be sitting in a circle as I am today with all of you guys, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you all for showing up.
The majority of people were abused or grew up with, drug environment, gang environment. They've seen a lot of stuff or done a lot of stuff. Then you're hearing somebody else say, hey man, I was abused, physically, verbally, sexually. Wow. Hey, I was abused the same way. Now, if he's willing to open up and say that, it's gonna empower me to do the same thing. When we're talking about divorce, when we talk about our children, it's like, wow, okay, I want to share too. I started seeing like these guys, telling their stories, and I was like, wait a minute, like these guys are crying. Like you're not supposed to be crying in prison, Every story becomes your own because that's what the empathy is.
There are shootings and murders and robberies, and children are being harmed. That seeps into your spirit. You don't walk away from a homicide. You don't walk away from seeing somebody's life being taken. That stays in your reel in your mind. How do you take care of yourself when those things happen? Self-care, meditating, and getting in a council and talking about and debriefing and sharing. It's therapeutic.
Something I really like about counsel is that the circle cares for everyone equally, and it doesn't really privilege or prioritize some people over others. It's like we all really matter.
About 3 months ago, my wife brought a rabbit home, a baby rabbit that she got in an alley in Los Angeles from somebody. And we named the rabbit Basil. But it was only Basil for like 2 days because I started calling it Bun Buns, which is so stupid. And everyone calls the rabbit Bun Buns now, and it got huge.
And so just knowing that there is an officer that has a bunny named Bun Bun. Like, I wish that the uniform could also convey those beautiful little sparks of our humanity.
I don't think I've ever been in a room with cops without having a feeling of we need to try to run. Right? Oh, I don't feel that. I don't get that. And done right, this is what it does. It builds community. It brings people together, and you hear the stories, and I'm learning like about Ken talking about his family life and about Bun Bun. Outside of the jobs or the things that we do, we're all human. We all have real lives.
I have sons. And my second son arrived at 28 weeks. He came prematurely. He was 1 pound, 10 ounces. I wasn't able to hold him for his first 8 or so days of life. I'd had my world turned upside down before, but that was one of the most shocking moments of my life.
My parents protected me and raised me where I was safe and secure, and how much they wrestled with the pain I've had in my adult life, with things that they couldn't do anything about, and thinking of their fear from the pain that I've gone through, and they felt helpless. I have to remind them at times that they did a good job when I was a child. You don't want to experience hurtful things, but I think the world is so full of pain that you can't be immune from it if you're living. And I think of that in the role of daughter and how it's impacted my parents. I couldn't talk to them about it because I was too rough, so I did send them a letter saying your expectations for me might not be possible anymore. And I'll be okay. Because you guys raised me well. So, Mom and Dad, I'll be okay.
Thanks, daughter. Appreciate that. I have 2 daughters that I've been raising since they were 5 and 8 alone. And because their father committed suicide and left me with that. How do you now make sure that history doesn't repeat itself and that the trauma doesn't stop me from doing the things I need to do? And it's so hard when you love something and you want what's best for them, but realizing they're gonna make it. We did. We think about the crap we've all been through and we sit here today. At the end of the day, we're all pushing a shopping cart full of shit. And the journey of life is to unload. It's about the counsel. It's about opening up and being open and aware of new things, because you never know how the person's story is your story.
The theme that I'm noticing is children, kids. For a long time, I've carried a lot of regret that I wasn't a part of my kids' lives. My kids are nothing like I was at that age. Their lives are so beautiful. The things that were in the house for me growing up weren't there for them. me being away pretty much gave them the room to grow. I've always wanted to be there, physically, and I think that at the time that had I been there, what I had in my life, the shopping carts full of shit, would have caused them to go through the things that I went through, because I wasn't ready to be a dad. And I wasn't ready to be a leader. I wasn't ready to be anything other than somebody who had to sit in prison and figure some shit out. I'm looking at my son, and he skates. He doesn't talk like I used to. He doesn't dress like I used to. He doesn't do anything. I've always been honest with my son, and I think that honesty helped him. And it's beautiful. I'm having fun just being there and just watching all of this take place, with also the heaviness of all of this. It's like Heidi said, it's you've done a great job. You don't have to worry. You're gonna be okay. And I want so much to be there and to not miss anymore. And it's hard. It's hard to be here without them.
I'll tell you what, I met a lot of people that have been in prison, and very few that are as honest and genuine as you are. And it doesn't mean that they're not out there, it just means I haven't spoken to them. And I believe so much in redemption for everybody, that if they really want it, it's possible. And it's nice to see what I really think is a genuine representative of that. Just want to say thanks. That meant a lot to me.
The neighborhood I grew up in, either people are dead or they're in prison for life. Being 30 years on the job, a woman of color coming from a space where people who wear the uniform like me don't understand me. I'm a product of this community, so that's why I relate.
You come from that life as well,
Right.
and you're an officer
Right.
as a career.
Right.
I come from that life, and I chose the gangs and the drugs and all the things that you guys deal with. So we see it from that grassroots ground level.
Right.
You are like my brother. My mom and dad got married at 15, had me at 16. She ended up dying at 30 of a heroin overdose.
My mom was 15, dad was about 14. Dad was a gang member. When they were hanging out in the projects, I was hanging out in the projects.
So it's amazing because when you shared your story, it's like all of us got the same story.
It's amazing to hear the similarities, being born to teenage parents that were involved in things that were bad. The things that you witnessed are what caused you to take this course. And that's something similar with myself as well. You just did the opposite of what you were shown. I got involved with the council program 2014. I've been invested in it. That's why I'm here today, is because of me getting involved in that program.
Ready to get home and get to work.
Yeah. So,
very nice. The reality is we're so much alike.
When we're really grounded in mindfulness and when we've cultivated this ability to be in council, we have this opportunity to do things like today, which is about the weaving. And the weaving is going beyond those we are most familiar with to sit with those who are a reach. Words of witnessing, of appreciation, of commitment, or sense of intention.
Vulnerability, strength,
Familiarity. Curiosity.
Listening, empathy, caring.
Gratitude.
Relief.
Hope.
unity and collaboration.
The story of what it means to show up and to take a backward step is a story that ripples forth. It's a story that continues beyond this time and this place.
Being in council is so much about noticing what you notice and just like listening to what's coming up. And you're not just listening to the words that are being said, you're listening with your heart. I would say it transformed me.
With this kind of practice, I see the value in it. I know it has made amazing difference in many people's lives.
We don't need to be enemies. We can be activists. We can have disagreements. We can do all of that, but we can do it in council. We can do it in a circle. I seen that it changed the way he was looking at it.
I really respect him. It's a man who went away for a long time. He committed a crime and the state gave him a sentence and he served it. And he came out, but he never lost touch with what he wanted to do, right?
It's a way of life. It's something that I've learned to practice daily. You know, it is a practice. It's just something that helps me be a better version of myself.
Everyone said it made them a better husband, a better father, a better partner. There was the transformation, change of folks. As you sit around this circle and you hear the history of what the council is all about, it makes you see the similarities among each other and how uniquely wonderful we are as the human race, regardless of your background or if you've been in prison or if you're a cop or if you're an attorney or if you're just a regular old mom.
We develop a kind of appreciation for an intentional way of listening and speaking, such that the relationships that emerge are fresh and they're not based on preconceived ideas and our own judgments about each other and our own limitations. This is about paying attention. We're attending to the soil. Maybe we're planting some seeds. This is a chance to really look at what's around us as we move forward, to really attend to the space around us, and maybe at a certain point we look up and we see the horizon together, this sort of shared horizon.